Word of mouth is powerful, even when it's wrong. Word of mouth has the potential to make or break a business, a TV show, a video game, and with the advent of the internet and social media sites like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and news aggregators like Reddit and online encyclopedias like Wikipedia, bad information and urban legends can spread literally at the speed of light. This series of videos is intended to hopefully stop or at least slow down the spread of some of the more popular gun-related myths and urban legends. And it starts tonight with one of the biggest ones, which is about magazine springs. We've all heard it. We all know that guy who knows a guy who had a magazine that he left loaded for an extended period of time, and when he went to shoot it off, he was plagued by failed feeds and and jams, stovepipes, stuff like that. But it's never happened to any of us. We all just know a guy. The theory is this: if you compress a magazine spring for an extended period of time, you will weaken the spring. And when you go to use it, you're going to have, the spring is going to be too weak to push the follower correctly, and you're going to have jams and failed feeds. The problem is that that's false, and I'm going to explain why here before too long. The other thing that people like to blame these things on is the magazine feed lips, and I'll get to that closer towards the end of the video, but it's part of it. It's part of this whole thing. The problem you run into is the people who often speak about having this problem are usually the guy who wants to blame his equipment for his problems instead of blaming his shitty grip and poor form. And that's a human thing. We don't like to look at ourselves too much, and we don't like to acknowledge that most of our problems are caused by us. But everybody to some degree blames their equipment, but it's really, really a big deal, or it's very prevalent in the gun world, because God forbid you should be doing something wrong. So here's some science. The majority of box magazine springs are like this. This is what's called a helical coil magazine, or a helical coil spring, excuse me. Now, in the context of a magazine, in almost all magazines, they're not round. They are non-concentric. And they are designed to be loaded into the magazine from the bottom. On top of the spring is going to be a follower, and at the bottom of the spring is going to be a base plate. And they are designed in such a way as so they can move unobstructed within the body of the magazine and follow the contour of the magazine, like this Stanag here. Coil springs, or spring steel, coil springs are made from spring steel. And spring steel is some pretty nifty stuff. It's a high carbon steel, it's low alloy, and it has what people who are much, much smarter than me call a high yield rate. In layman's terms, in other words, perfect for my channel, a high yield rate means that it retains its ability to go back to its original shape. In this case, this is just the spring's original shape. It retains its ability to go back to its original shape after being compressed, okay? Because that's what it does. It's a spring, and its entire job is to be springy, I guess. That's a very scientific term, and you can't use it. It's trademarked, copyright, gun torture tests. Now, here's the thing, though. Springs are cyclic. Now, what that means is a cycle on a spring like this is one full compression followed by one full release. That is one cycle. So if it's compressed for a long period of time, that's not a cycle. It's just compressed. Okay? Springs like these, with springs like these, it doesn't matter how long it's been compressed for. What matters is how many times it's been compressed. Now, the act of simply loading up a spring and leaving it compressed for a long period of time does nothing to it. Nothing to it. It can stay that way, well, I think forever, or pretty close to it. Unless there is a structural weakness of the steel that causes a catastrophic malfunction like a break or a fracture, or something like rust, corrosion, that kind of stuff. But if it's well maintained and it's not exposed to anything that's going to hurt it structurally, it should be good to go for a very, very long time. Why doesn't it weaken it? Why doesn't it leaving it compressed weaken the spring? Because it hasn't completed a full cycle. Okay? And like I said, magazine springs like these are cyclic, and if it hasn't completed a cycle, it hasn't actually incurred any wear on the spring. Think about it like this. We've all seen the TV shows, and maybe our granddad or our uncle or our father, or maybe maybe you're a car collector, okay? And there's this really cool show called Chasing Classic Cars. I love that show. And in that show, this dude goes around and he finds these classic cars, and some of these cars are what he calls barn finds. And these cars may have been sitting for decades. Now, due to the nature of internal combustion engines, even when the engine is not running, half of the valve springs are compressed, because that's just the nature of the engine. That's the way it works. One valve's open, one valve's closed. The valve that's open has a compressed spring. The valve that's closed doesn't. So, if being compressed for an extended period of time, decades, weaken the springs, how is it that people who collect cars and go out and find these bar finds can find this car that's been sitting in a barn for 50 years, put fresh oil in it, put fresh fuel in it, change the fuel filter, maybe put new spark plugs in it, put a battery in it, and start it right up without it turning into one giant bomb? How is that possible? It's not. That's my point. And those springs are under a hell of a lot more pressure than these. Just think about that for a minute. One of the largest spring manufacturers in the world says that cyclic springs like these are designed to have an infinite lifespan. Infinite's a long damn time. Does that mean they won't wear out? No. But they're designed to not wear out. And in a magazine spring, in an application like a magazine, where they might be under compression for a long time, but they're certainly not suffering any sort of abuse, and when they are cycled, it's not like a recoil spring in a 1911, okay? These things should ostensibly last forever. Case in point, this spring is from the 80s. And it came out of this magazine. And I had this magazine loaded. I think I loaded this magazine 4 or 5 years ago. And I just shot it off today because I just wanted to see if it would work. And guess what? It did. Even more proof, and I don't know if you've heard about this guy or not, but there's a pretty popular survivalist blogger guy who inherited a 1911 that had been packaged up or boxed or something sometime in the 50s. And it had been packaged up or boxed complete with a fully loaded magazine. And when he got it, he opened the package, he loaded the magazine that had been loaded sometime in the 50s into the gun and shot it. And it cycled flawlessly. This specific magazine here, this Wilson Combat ETM, has probably been loaded for 2 years. And I don't see any need to unload it because I don't want to weaken the spring by cycling it. Rusty's having a real hard time keeping a straight face. The other thing is feed lips, magazine feed lips. They are super important. But it stands to reason that if this spring is too weak to push this little piece of plastic up reliably to feed ammunition, how is it going to be strong enough to bend these feed lips out of shape? One precludes the other. If it's not strong enough to push a plastic follower up, it's certainly not strong enough to bend the sheet metal that the magazine's made out of. Or in the case of magazines that are polymer magazines with steel feed lips. You guys get what I'm saying. You're smart cookies. So, the long and short of it is keep your magazines loaded. Keep them loaded forever. It's not going to hurt them. You don't need to spend money replacing magazine springs every couple of years. You don't need to keep an empty magazine. Okay, you don't need to cycle through to give the spring a rest. Springs live to be springs. Who are you to take that away from them? That's their life. Let them do their jobs. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any ideas for this series, I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet. It's going to be called, I don't know, Gun Mythbusters or myth busting guns. I'm not sure yet. I'll figure that out when I actually go to upload the video. But regardless, if you have an idea, if you have another myth or urban legend that's firearms related that you want me to try and bust or debunk or whatever, then send me an email to Rich at GunTortureTests, or shoot me a message on Twitter at GunTortureTests. And don't forget to go and pre-order some Red Fork ammunition at redforkammo.com. See you guys next time.